Hi everybody, my name is Hallie Hunt. I'm your Dean of Students and welcome to our Friday Frequently Asked Questions webinar series where we put together panels of experts who will answer the most pressing questions that you as students have sent to us the preceding week to the Dean of Students office. I am so excited today to have a great panel of our counselors from Counseling and Psychological Services here to talk about anxiety and preparing for finals and mental health and wellness in general. Before I ask them to introduce themselves, I just want to remind you that this is being recorded, and that if you have friends who weren't able to watch today live, they can watch it later. This will be posted to the Dean of Students website. The other thing is our panel today is going to be answering your questions. So if you have questions that you would like them to address, please feel free to use the chat feature at the bottom of your screen. Your questions will be confidential and that other participants will not be able to see the questions you ask. They're going to be going to Ezra Bakar, the administrative assistant within the Office of the Dean of Students, and she will be moderating the Q&A later. So there's a piece of privacy for you so that you don't have to identify yourself in order to ask a question. So with that, I'm going to move on and ask our panel to introduce themselves.
My name is Myesha Dunn, and I am a licensed therapist, and I am a crisis counselor with the Counseling and Psychological Services Office, and I am the liaison with the African American Resource Center, and I am so excited that we are partnering with the Dean of Students today.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday. My name is Alex Osorio. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I am a case manager and counselor at CAPS. So I do counseling therapy in addition to case management, and I serve as the CAPS liaison for the Center for Scholars.
Hi, my name is Solomon Massin. I'm also a licensed clinical social worker, case manager, and counselor as well with CAPS. I'm excited to be here, and I'm also the liaison for the Titan Dreamers Resource Center.
Thank you all for joining us. I'm so pleased that you were able to be part of our panel today. Titans out there, remember that if you have questions for Myesha, Alex, or Solomon, please feel free to start using the chat feature now. And before we get to those questions, I'm going to ask Myesha to kick us off with a little bit of information.
Thank you so much, Hallie. Today, as Hallie just mentioned, we're going to be discussing anxiety. And I wanted to give us a quick and solid working definition of what anxiety is. And it is feelings of worry, nervousness, or unease, typically about an uncertain outcome. And what is important for us to hear today is that we are all experiencing feelings of worry, nervousness, or unease in some way, shape, or form due to COVID-19 and all of the uncertain outcomes that it is bringing into our lives. Next slide, thank you. Anxiety can cause nervousness, restlessness, tension, repetitive worried thoughts, increased heart rate, sweatiness, sleeplessness, irritability, problems with concentration, indecisiveness, immense amount of fear, nightmares or bad dreams, panic attacks, even panic attacks. So there's a full gamut of what anxiety can cause in our lives. Next slide, thank you. Anxiety can also cause stress, and we often use anxiety and stress simultaneously, but the distinction that I want to make today is that stress is when we experience the emotional and mental effects of anxiety in our physical bodies. So stress is the physical manifestation of anxiety in our body, usually over some time. And as you can see in the diagram, stress can cause things like muscle tension, skin irritability or rashes, decreased sex drive, it can cause fatigue, it can cause stomach and digestive issues, it can cause trouble concentrating, it can even cause teeth grinding, high blood pressure. I mean, and the list can go on and on about the things that stress and anxiety can cause in our bodies. Next slide. There is something that I do want to highlight and talk about really briefly, and that is situational anxiety. And the definition of situational anxiety is the mental and emotional and physical effects based on a specific situation that can cause unexpected life changes and uncertain outcomes. And I wanted to highlight that because a lot of times people think that if they have anxiety, then they might be crazy or they might be mentally ill. You do not have to have a mental illness to be experiencing situational anxiety. And what I want us to hear today is that COVID-19 has presented our entire world with a situation that is very anxiety provoking. And it has presented to us unexpected life changes and several different kinds of uncertain outcomes. Next slide. So common triggers are uncertainty about our health, and that is just not being certain if we have the virus or not, and if we do, if it can be affecting our friends and our family that we've been around or that we're currently around now, or could we go forward and get the virus? Just lots of uncertainty about our health. Being quarantined with or without people. Being quarantined with people that we either love but don't really necessarily like or get along with. Being quarantined with people that haven't been and aren't nice to us and we don't get along with at all, we don't have a relationship with at all, but it's the only place we can be, or being quarantined without people because we are human and we are used to having human connection and intimacy. And if you're being away from people right now and quarantined and alone, then that is definitely anxiety provoking. Going to virtual classes, very instantly we had to move from having class on campus to going to virtual classes and all that that means, trying to stay engaged. Some of us have heard that you all are kind of not even really engaged and struggling because you're kind of bored and it's hard to engage through a computer, that you're struggling to get your grades and your assignments in and things like that. So your grades are suffering and test taking through the internet is difficult. And so that's definitely anxiety provoking. Lack of ability to communicate with campus entities like your instructors, like the dean of students maybe, like IT, like DSS, all of those entities that you're used to being able to walk into their office and speak to, we're not able to do that right now. Losses. People are grieving either because you've lost loved ones or you've lost things or situations like normal routines and jobs and connections with other people, finances and certain freedoms that we're used to, that we're experiencing losses in various ways. Uncertainty of summer and fall semester logistics. Are we going to be off campus or not? Are we going to be both? How is that going to work? Lots of anxiety. I'm getting anxiety just talking about it right now. Other things like how to access resources like the CARES Act money, mental health services, housing and food. Those are all things that we actually have seen a trend in our work and in the Dean of Students office and with CAPS. We've seen a trend that these things are things that are causing you all to be very anxious right now. And so we are wanting to make sure that we have this space and this time to discuss it further. So I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Alex, so he can continue our talk. Thank you.
Thank you. So as finals are approaching, we wanted to give you some information on test anxiety and some tips to dealing with anxiety or stress that might come with tests, finals, especially right now that we're doing virtual learning. So here's a little snippet, and I'm going to go through these pretty fast, but you will have access to this presentation and you will have access to ask questions at the end, so bear with me. So test anxiety, it's a performance anxiety where you feel like you have to perform. There's different triggers that lead to that, whether it be you feel like your test scores, define who you are. If you're trying to enter grad school and you feel like you need to be competitive, that can lead to anxiety, to test anxiety, the feeling of needing to stand out, or a feeling of associated, or feeling of failure, right? Different things happen during test anxiety. You may go blank, you may freeze, you may have trouble focusing. As you can see here on the slide, having test anxiety can cut your performance by a 12% percentile, but then compared to other students that don't have anxiety. And some of the statistics are that about 16 to 20% of students have high anxiety, test anxiety, and about another 18% have moderate test anxiety. So it's fairly common for college students. But the good news is that we're here to help. We're here to provide some tips to dealing with that anxiety. Next slide, please. So here are some things that you may see or feel if you have test anxiety. So you have a hard time studying for tests, you get distracted when studying, you blank out during an exam. So these are different things that you may experience mentally, but also there's some physical, somatic symptoms, stomach aches, headaches, either while you're preparing for an exam or during the exam. So these are just some of the things that you may or may not experience that may be able to tell you if you're struggling with test anxiety. Next slide, please. So here are some 8 tips that I looked up in the research that can help you, and I'm going to provide some additional information for each one of them. So the first one is make a plan. What are you going to study? What kind of plan are you going to have? Are you going to identify which are the areas of the exams that you have the most trouble with, and are you going to make sure that you spend the most time on that? Which are the concepts that you have to learn to master each time you study? And at the end of your study session, say that I accomplished that I learned what I had to learn out of this study session. So creating the plan in terms of like, are you going to also incorporate self-care in between study sessions? That's really important, and we'll talk about some techniques to help you relax, help you recharge in between study sessions and right before the exam. The next one is practice, practice, practice. So one thing is practice in a similar setting to the setting that you're going to be taking your exam in. Right now, they're all going to be virtual for the most part, I believe. So go to the space in your home where you're going to practice. Make sure the environment is similar to that day. If you have an early morning exam, try to practice early in the morning. Are you going to have breakfast beforehand? Are you going to have a glass of water with an apple? Are you going to have music right before the exam to kind of help you recharge? So try to practice and emulate the day of the exam and what that's going to look like. Try different study strategies. Are you going to study for long periods of time? Are you going to study for a little bit and then do some self-care in between? Are you going to study with groups of people? I've been telling students, just do a Zoom and have people on the Zoom, and you guys are just doing your own work. And if somebody kind of is slacking off, you kind of say, hey, get back to work, and hope we hold each other accountable. Like if you were at the library studying in the study room, that could be helpful. Or make it fun, make it a quiz each other, make it a game show for a little bit. Not so much just like memorizing stuff, but making it something fun that you can do. Practice guided meditation. So different relaxation exercises. Again, at the end, we'll share some links to some of those things. Also, consider working with a tutor. I know it's a little bit late now, but if you can work with a tutor, go to last-minute office hours with your professors, or again, those Zoom chats with friends or classmates, that would be helpful. Help each other with the questions you don't understand. Put your health first. So make sure you're exercising, getting a good night's sleep, having a healthy breakfast in the morning if you're used to having breakfast. If you don't typically eat breakfast before an exam, this might not be a good time to start because it may upset your stomach. So you know yourself best. I would never eat before an exam because I knew myself. My stomach would be in a bundle, So know yourself and make sure you're taking care of your health. Skip difficult questions. So we're going to talk a little bit right now about having a plan when you go in there. Don't waste time on questions that you're stuck on. Learn to move on. And if you can, some exams you can come back. Some exams you might not be able to come back to questions, but don't waste time on questions that you're just stuck on. And slow down. I know that's counterintuitive when it comes to a timed exam, but if you're feeling stressed out in the exam and you take a minute or two to do one of the exercises that we're going to talk about or we're going to show you, even though you're wasting a little bit of time, you're investing a little bit of that test time on taking care of yourself, you may see a really good benefit that now for the next couple of questions, you're going to be a lot more focused, a lot more calm. So sometimes it helps to slow down and take some time during the exam, even though, again, it seems counterintuitive. Next slide, please. So these are some things also that I found. So test yourself before the exam. So these are some things that you can do before the exam. Practice positive self-talk. Learn how to coach yourself during the exam. If you're feeling nervous, anxious in the middle of the exam, practice how to just kind of talk yourself through it. And I'm going to have a list in the next couple of slides of things you can tell yourself. Exercise or do something you enjoy every day. So leading up to the exam, create a routine, even if it's just for this next week. Are you going to exercise every morning? You know, it helps get those endorphins, those chemicals going to kind of help your mood, help your energy, help your focus. Support your beliefs with evidence. This is all about cognitive skills. So when you're having negative skills, you got to come up with ways to disprove that and know that that's a distortion. It's not a correct thought. So you got to battle that positive thought, that negative thought with some positive proof. And then talk to us about your feelings. Talk to your classmates about how you're feeling emotionally about the test or just about your anxiety. And usually just talking about it helps. Next slide, please. And then also, so the next one, during the exam, success. So there's another acronym. So stay focused on the test, you know, and if you've done all this work that we're talking about prior to the test, this will be a little easier. So you got some work to do this weekend if you want to apply some of these skills. Use breathing exercises to self-calm. Again, take a break, maybe use one of the techniques during the exam. Come to test on time, early if you want, to kind of maybe do a last minute review session. Not cramming, but review. I used to play football, so if you know football, you practice full pads, everything hitting all week. Thursday night practice before the day of the game. You wear your jersey, you wear your gym shorts. You don't go heads on. You don't put on your pads. You just review and walk through all the plays. The same thing. If you studied enough beforehand, the night before the exam and the day of the exam, you're not going to be cramming anymore. You should just be reviewing. Imagine you're just going in with your jersey and your gym shorts. Don't stress out the night before. Create a plan for answering questions. Again, if you get stuck, have a plan to move on and not stress over it. And then execute that plan. Stay active. If you go blank, again, move on. And stop negative self-talk with positive affirmations. Next slide. So in this next slide, you're going to have some of the things you can tell yourself during the exam. So you're doing fine. Keep at it. Don't give up. You're almost finished. Good job. And just that positive coaching that we're speaking to ourselves internally and externally all day long. So make sure that this is something that you're incorporating. Next slide. And some other techniques so that you can do leading up to the exam, and then the ones that you like and you think you can do during the exam, then you can go ahead and practice some of these. The next slide, please, is going to be some links to some things that may be helpful. The first three are videos, YouTube videos that you can use that are like about meditation, affirmations, a priming exercise from Tony Robbins that I like to do. It's about 19 minutes. So maybe do it this weekend a couple times and kind of get into that mode. It focuses on gratitude. And then the ones in white are all apps for your phone, so you may want to check those out. And the last one is a website from Kaiser that has audio meditation, guided meditations that you can use. And I believe that's it. I think that's the last slide. So I'm going to pass it on to Solomon.
All right. So this is going to be a review because my colleagues have done a wonderful job of kind of setting me up for this. So these are ways to manage stress and anxiety. So we're going to be really, these might seem really simple, but they're fundamentals about kind of being able to manage some of these stressors. Because like Myesha mentioned, like Alex mentioned, kind of this whole situation with the pandemic is overwhelming and stressful. We add that layer of now we're taking tests in a different medium, kind of online. It could be overwhelming. So these are some things that could be really helpful. Again, sound really basic, but they are fundamentals. One of them is engage in meaningful relationships. So right now we're supposed to be kind of maintaining social distance. That doesn't necessarily mean we avoid those relationships that are important to us. So those could be family, friends, so setting up calls, text, video calls, really engaging with those people that are supportive of you, that kind of support your goals that you have. The other one is developing a daily routine. We all had a routine prior to the pandemic. Get dressed, shower, get in a car, be in traffic, fight for traffic, for a parking spot, get to our place. We don't have that anymore, or some of us might kind of notice some changes to that. So our routine's off. And sometimes when that happens, it could have an impact on our well-being in the sense that there was some structure and order in place. And now we don't have that. So it's important to kind of find a way to reestablish a routine, find out what works for you. That could help with kind of giving a sense of normalcy, having a sense of control in an otherwise uncertain time. So definitely kind of try that out and kind of be flexible with yourself. You might notice that your routine for finals week might be different from the week after. So kind of play around with that, figure out what works for you. The other one is address your physical needs, kind of like my colleagues have mentioned. There's different ways you might notice that you're feeling overwhelmed, stress, headaches, fatigue, abdominal distress. So be mindful of your physical needs, get enough rest, sleep. That's going to be really important. Kind of like Alex mentioned, there might be times when you think, I need to really study. I need to cram for this. I don't have time to sleep. But there could be a consequence of, not getting enough sleep. And when you go to the exam, you might be tired, you might be fatigued, might be hard to focus, concentrate. So really give yourself opportunity to sleep. Recommended is 7 to 8, but if you're averaging less, just try to go a little bit more, just to kind of have the energy to kind of navigate the next couple of days. Nutrition as well, make sure you're eating, hydrating. Exercise is another form of self-care. So right now there's a lot of different programs out there that have are trying to kind of encourage individuals to kind of socially isolate in a safe way. So I know Nike has the Nike Training Club that's free. Les Mills has like an online exercise program. I think Daily Burn has they have a 30-day free program. So there's a lot of different exercise things you could do just to kind of be active, because right now that we're at home, we're likely to kind of not be moving as much. Again, do this in a safe way. So if you're going to be going outside for a walk, be mindful of all the guidelines from your local and state officials. This other one's really important. It could be really easy to kind of want to know as much information about the pandemic, about the issue. So I know the first couple of days I was kind of just reviewing everything, like what's going on, what are the recommendations, kind of what does this look like? But too much information could be also just stressful, because then we're kind of feeling overwhelmed. So be mindful of how much information you're taking in. If you're noticing it's causing more distress than helping you, it's okay to put it aside, and be mindful of kind of where you're getting your information as well. Like my colleagues have mentioned, really engage in self-care. That could be could look different for everyone, but find out what works for you. That could be hobbies, reading, board games, video games, video calls, whatever it might be. Find what works for you. And lastly, ask for help if needed. That could be to your peers, friends, professors, classmates, and then professional help. So knowing kind of when you're to ask for professional help. So if we go to the next slide, please. So that kind of is my segue to CAPS services and resources. So CAPS is available 24/7 for urgent crisis situations. That's the number you would call, the 657-278-3040 number. So it's open 24/7 if you need to speak with an individual for a crisis urgent situation. Right now with the pandemic, our hours are changed in terms of when we have office staff present, but our providers are available Monday through Friday as well. If you need to make an appointment, call Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. We're providing at CAPS, we do individual, couples, group counseling, we do psychiatric services, crisis counseling, case management. Case management means we need to connect you with off-campus resources as needed. That could be for counseling services, so mental health. It could be for basic needs. It could be for health services, like medical services. And then we have wellness programs as well. And currently all our services are being offered via Zoom, and that could be via Zoom audio or video, because we know sometimes students prefer to kind of just aren't adjusting to the Zoom, or prefer just to have the audio. So we have those options for students. We go to the next slide, please. So we have a couple services or resources online. We have our wellness workshops. So Alex was talking a little bit about some managing your cognitive distortions. So on our website, we have handouts, PDFs on how to manage mood, stress, thoughts. They'll talk a little bit about, you can kind of download these and use these out, use these throughout the day. There's a one on kind of learning how to do affirmations, one on how to challenge negative thinking patterns. So just for example, a good one would be, normally we might find that we're really kind of hard on ourselves. I should have studied more. I should, why did I wait till the last minute? So ask yourself, how would I talk to my friend or my significant other or my family member if they were in the same situation? And the likelihood is we'll find that we're usually more empathetic with others. So try that technique with yourself. How can I be as empathetic with myself as I might be with others? We also have a new resource that's been rolled out this semester for students. It's called You at Fullerton. You create a profile, and then you take some surveys, questionnaires, and it'll help you identify, get personalized tips and resources related to both mental health, academics, career, social life. And that's a confidential resource as well.
Thank you all for that great information for our students. I actually learned some things. I didn't realize that you were doing couples counseling during this time as well. I knew there were groups and individuals, but that's a great resource. So thank you for that. At this point, Ezra, do we have questions from the audience?
Yes, we do have a couple questions from the audience, and thank you once again to our wonderful panelists. Our first question comes from a student who is very stressed about finals week. They're saying that they feel unprepared due to our shift in virtual learning and are stressed out about their finals, and are wondering if there's any tips or tricks that you all might have for being unprepared.
I think that the first step is acknowledging where you're at. That self-awareness, okay, I'm unprepared. That's just what it is right now. And accepting that and not judging it, not saying I'm a bad person because I'm unprepared, but just accepting the fact that that is where you are right now. And that's fine. Now that you do that, then come up with a plan on how to prepare in the next couple of days and how to just maybe catch up. So academically, again, some of the skills that we talked about, reach out to friends, reach out to professors, create a plan and stick to it. A study plan, very structured, again, with self-care time in between, with study time, with family time, friend time, and try to stick to it as much as possible. If you can recruit an accountability partner that can help you stick to that plan, that works great as well. The link that we have at the end of my section with all those different techniques, look through some of those and figure out which ones may help you. I personally love the alternative nostril breathing one, which is I think the first one in there. It just relaxes you when you're feeling anxious. If you're not feeling prepared, it's going to kind of just bring some peace to you. It's going to drop your shoulders right away. It always does that for me. And so make sure you look through some of those techniques and apply those. But I think at this point, really just accept where you're at. Don't judge yourself for it, and create a plan. Sit down tonight and create a plan for the weekend and just put it into action. And that's the best you can do. Just do your best and put some of these skills to work and reach out for help.
Thank you, Alex. Our next question comes from a student who has lost their job due to the pandemic and is under a lot of financial duress and is wondering how they should cope with this new burden on their mental health with finals coming up.
First, I just want to appreciate whoever that was that asked that question, because I'm sure they're not alone, and understand that along with everything that we're facing, all the adjustment and the anxiety, comes grief from losses that we're experiencing. So you just mentioned that you experienced the loss of a job, which means loss of finances. And I would say during this time, just like Alex just mentioned, being able to acknowledge where you are, being able to say, this is what's going on in my life, and then being able to reach out and look for any type of support that you can get right now. Family member, friends, even call the number, call CAPS, and see what we can do and how we can connect you to resources that might be able to help meet immediate needs, because immediate needs needing to be met is very important. So if food is a problem, if living is a problem, you're not going to be able to concentrate on passing finals right now because your immediate needs and basic needs need to be met. So definitely give us a call at CAPS and set up for a case management appointment. And you can also call or go on to 211. That's a website that you can look at that has plethora of resources for basic needs. Then the next thing is that if your basic needs are somewhat met, but you're still just adjusting, the reaching out to and connecting with family and friends and support students, other classmates, and things like that that are going through similar things so you know that you're not alone. And then pulling from what Alex said, helping yourself to create a step-by-step plan to help yourself get prepared for your finals, thinking about your financial or your career goals and thinking about your academic goals and kind of looking into the future at the things that you've been working towards and kind of bring that into your mind and your remembrance right now so you can remember what you've worked so hard for and that you are not one that is going to just give up. We as humans, we have resilience, and pulling upon the resilience from within you can allow you to be able to tap into a strength that you really didn't even realize you had until right now, and pull upon that and use that to move forward into your future.
Thank you, Myesha. Our next question comes from a student who is also a parent and is wondering if there are any tips or strategies for maintaining mental health during a pandemic, being a student, and with finals week coming up.
Well, I'll take that one again. I am a parent. I'm not a parent of young children, but I did have young children at one point, so I can just imagine what that must be like and how stressful that can be during this time. And I would just say to look at, when you can get a minute, look at the day, look at the schedule, look at the time, look at the pattern of the day and see in that time, in that day, in your schedule, are there times that you can build in that this is my self-care moment? This is my quiet moment. If there's a way for you to pull in family and friends right now without, causing any kind of safety concerns, definitely do that. But that is a real issue right now too for parents. I was just talking with a student the other day. She was sharing that she can't pull up on her support system right now because it would create risk that her mother is high risk, her sister is high risk right now, and those are people she would normally pull in. So if you can pull people in, great. If not, look at your day and look at your schedule and try to plan in time for yourself. There might be a pattern where your child or your children are maybe sleep or calm, or there might be times or certain things that can calm your child. So the student that I was talking to the other day, she said, I'm going to put on a movie and give her some goldfish. And that quieted her so that she could speak to me. And that was great. And so being able to kind of look at it at night, maybe when everybody's asleep, and see when you can plan in some quiet time, some study time. And if it doesn't go in accordance to plan, notice it, don't judge it, try not to be too hard on yourself or the kids, but kind of then you just have to go with the flow. If the kids need you, they need you. And then you have to trust that you have gotten everything that you can get to be able to be successful this part of your semester and end successfully.
And I'll add two things to it. For most parents that I've worked with, their children are their why, their motivation for why they're doing all this. So try to remember that these little babies are the reason why you're doing all this, and let that inspire you. And also, I don't know, Holly, if it was students, but there was recently another workshop on parenting during the pandemic or something. I don't know if it was you, but maybe we can find that information and get that to the students as well. That would be helpful.
Thank you for that shout out. Yes, it was I think it was the second Friday webinar that we did in our series. So it's posted to the Dean of Students website, and students can go to our website and access that webinar.
Thank you all. This is our last question, and it's pretty general, but it's a big one. This student is scared of reaching out because they're concerned that they're not going to get what they need from whoever they reach out to. Do you have any tips for them as to how to begin reaching out, or how to maybe ease their stress and anxiety a little bit?
Yeah, so reaching out can be scary. We're being vulnerable with others, so it could kind of make us feel uncomfortable, uneasy. Um, but I think, like you kind of mentioned, the student has a good awareness, and you know what, I'm interested in it, but I'm just worried about how I'm going to be perceived. Am I going to get the support I need? So it might be helpful to kind of identify when I'm reaching out, what am I looking for? Because you have a good idea of kind of what you would like to get. And sometimes it's helpful to be able to say, especially with friends, sometimes it's knowing, being able to verbalize kind of what am I looking for when I'm connecting. So I have students who sometimes want, I'm reaching out for support and I don't necessarily want solutions. I just want someone to hear me. So identifying for yourself, what are you hoping to get from these relationships, and being able to kind of uh, inform them of what you're hoping to get. Like, I want your support. I want emotional support. Can I just have a moment of your time? If it comes to asking for help, I'm also not sure if this is also unsure if it relates to kind of getting the professional help. If it comes to professional help, as a consumer, you have so many rights, and you have the right to kind of choose who you get to work with, asking questions, making sure it's going to be a good fit. So, for example, for counseling, having a good kind of therapeutic alliance relationship with your clinician is important, because if you feel comfortable with someone, the more you're likely to kind of engage, communicate, be open. And if you feel uneasy, we might kind of hold back. So definitely is important to kind of to find a good fit. So with when I'm working with students, when we're connecting them, because one of the things we do is connect students with off-campus resources. We kind of help empower students to kind of find ways to kind of identify what are they looking for in counseling. Is it, if it's anxiety, for anxiety, depression, how do we kind of communicate what we're looking for from our providers? But more importantly, I wanted to just acknowledge that it is hard to reach out for help, and it can be scary, but it also takes a lot of courage to do that. And I think if even kind of taking the time to being on this call or this video call and kind of getting some information, and I know for CAPS, the goal is when students reach out to kind of really, we do an assessment to kind of assess kind of what their needs are, ask these questions, and kind of to hopefully identify a treatment plan or a goal that's going to work for that individual.
I'll just quickly add, I use this a lot, the 4 agreements, the book. Don't personalize things. If you reach out and you don't get exactly what you were hoping for, try somebody else. Don't personalize it. Don't give it a meaning that's completely distorted again. I even tell students, if you go see a therapist that I refer you to, or even with me, if you feel that my style is not conducive with you, let me know and I can change it up. So if you can ask your friend or the person you're reaching out to do something a little different and they're willing to do it, great. If not, don't personalize it, move on and try somebody else.
I just wanted to add to something that Solomon began saying, that just the fact that you are on this, in this session with us, and that you've asked a question is a great first step. And then being able to understand and know that we are all worthy of getting our needs met. And so you are worthy of being able to get your needs met. And just like Alex just said, if you can't get them met from one place, go to the next and go to the next and go to the next until you get it, because you are worth getting your needs met.
That is such a great note to end on. Thank you, everybody, for all of this great information. Thank you, students, for participating and for coming and for being brave enough to ask those questions. We've talked about the resources. There are a lot of resources that are in the website, or that will be on the website and in the PowerPoint presentation, but I also just wanted to take another second to highlight U at Fullerton. To get there, you type you.fullerton.edu, and if you need to access help or resources during off hours when CAPS is closed, this is a really great place to start. This is a great place to start anyway. There are a lot of different articles that will address almost anything that you have, any questions that you have. And students have been giving us some pretty great feedback about this website and this resource. So please, Titans, take a moment to check it out. At this point, I just want to say thank you very much to Myesha, Solomon, and Alex for joining us. Thank you, Titans, for being here. This recording will be put up on our website by next Tuesday. And again, keep sending us your questions, because the questions that you ask this next week will be answered in our website next Friday. So we look forward to seeing you next Friday. I hope you have a great weekend, and be safe out there, everybody. Bye.